Greetings everyone, I am Dr. Wolf and I just finished watching The Parent Map. Getting to see Starlight and Sunburst working together once again, hey, I think that's actually fun at least once a season. They actually have a pretty interesting dynamic between the two of them. But having their parents, or at least one parent from each, getting on their nerves the entire story, that's not something I was expecting. It's complicated to try and weave a story like this without going too far one direction or the other. But let's go back to the beginning. Sunburst is called by the cutie map, and the fact that it's calling him way outside of Ponyville, it's a little unique, but by this point it's kind of lost its flavor in that it's gonna call anyone at any time for whatever reason by this point, so yeah, I'm no longer surprised by it. I did notice that the large stack of letters seemed to be a bit of a giveaway on what might be coming later on, but I hadn't picked up on just what that meant yet. We'll get to that. It's very apparent that the moment Sunburst comes into the room and looks at the map and Starlight's reaction, and especially that she mentions she's not looking forward to this, you can already tell that they're going to be going to visit family. You can already tell that this is something that they've been avoiding for a very, very long time. Although why they've been avoiding it, that kind of threw me for a loop. Entering the town and hearing the phrase, "Welcome to Cyrus Hollow." That's a little confusing and even a little off-putting, but okay. Getting essence sprayed in your face. Also a little off-putting. I was already starting to get a little bit of a vibe of Starlight's village. Were they really gonna go that direction? But then it kind of turns on its head because you see a bookstore where no one is allowed to go inside, no one is allowed to read the books, you're only allowed to look through the windows as part of a preservation society. And when Firelight and Stellar Flare show up, it quickly becomes a story of preservation versus development. And for a time, I figured that this was going to be the main conflict of the episode. I figured, okay, I don't know whether they've actually tackled this kind of subject matter in an MLP episode before. This could be interesting. I want to see where they go with this. And it kind of threw me for a loop because I wasn't fully aware of where they were actually going. Even though they had set up with the big pile of unopened letters with Sunburst and Starlight's very apparent disdain about never wanting to go back to her home in the first place, yeah, they don't want to be with their parents, and it's all about repairing that relationship. So good job on the writers for giving us a bit of a red herring that actually would have made sense for a friendship episode, a map episode about getting these two ponies to work together on such differing ideologies, and then kind of going in a different direction that was properly set up beforehand. Yes, that's clever writing. I enjoy that. There were plenty of funny comments in that, setting up the fact that both Sunburst and Starlight are annoyed by their parents for very understandable reasons. Welcome to Cyrus Hollow. Welcome to Cyrus Hollow. Welcome to Cyrus Hollow. Okay, it's annoying, I get it. Yes, that's very fun stuff. Use your words, Sunburst. Also, Starlight apparently had an angsty teenager room once. I'm kind of wondering about whether the writers and or animators might have a punk/goth theme going on with their characters. I don't know. Between Rarity in It Isn't the Main Thing About You and much more recently Fluttershy, is this gonna be more of a regular thing in the series nowadays that a lot of the characters are just going to suddenly come up with these kind of looks? I don't know, what do you guys think about that? We know that both Starlight and Sunburst are feeling overwhelmed by their parents, and it is very clear why their parents are getting on their nerves. And yes, we are reminded of a previous episode in that Rainbow Dash was feeling very overwhelmed by her parents and was avoiding going back and telling them about all of her accomplishments and making them a part of her life. But there is a key difference. Back then, Rainbow Dash had always been encouraged by her parents, and never, not at one point, did either of them doubt in her ability. They were always believing in her, knowing that she could accomplish anything that she wanted to do, and just trying to uplift her spirits to that effect. In this case, though, for Sunburst, he has a mother who is constantly trying to put plans in his face because she apparently doesn't believe that he's capable of doing that himself. And then in Starlight's case, she has a father who insists on treating her like a child and not ever believing that she's capable of being a grown mare, as she keeps claiming to be. So yeah, they are kind of treading on old ground, and yet they're doing something very different in that respect at the same time. So yeah, I can see both of these episodes working very well for very different reasons, even though on the surface they do kind of look similar. And one thing that I was a little impressed by is the fact that throughout most of the episode, you think that, well, maybe this is something that both Starlight and Sunburst had just been given by the writers in order to make a good story. That they were never going to go back and see their parents before now. They had never mentioned it before now because, hey, it's kind of a regular thing with a lot of the characters. And yeah, we're just going to make it so they have overbearing parents as to make the story effective, which is okay in its own right, until you get to a point where Firelight talks about how he couldn't let go of treating her like a filly, in that he wanted to keep remembering her the way she was when she was happy. Looking back on all the mistakes that she has made in more recent years, and you start to think, you know, maybe this is a parent that's kind of in denial, hearing about some truly awful things that Starlight has taken part in, kind of never being able to let go of how much she was happy at one point in her life, and how much of a close bond they had at one point in their lives together. And yeah, in a roundabout way, that does kind of make sense, that a parent is kind of trapped in the past because their child has rebelled so far and made some pretty dire mistakes that they can't really move forward from that point. So up until the end of the episode, I was kind of thinking it was sort of a gimmick, but when he started saying why he was doing these things, it actually added a lot of depth to their relationship. And yeah, I can actually kind of understand that. It's a bit tragic in that way. And even in Sunburst's mom, again, you'd think that it's just being an overbearing parent as part of a gimmick that helps drive the story's conflict. But it had been established long ago that Sunburst had flunked out of magic school. And then having a parent realize that, well, if I don't help my child succeed at something, he may never be able to get out of his comfort zone again. That does make sense. That does bring a lot of depth to their relationship. And a bit of tragedy, too, considering how far that both Starlight and Sunburst have broken away from their family relationships. I know that the way they resolve those relationships at the end, it is pretty rushed. And given the 22-minute episode time limit, yeah, that's kind of a standard thing with most episodes in the series. You wish that there was more time that they could properly flesh out how these conflicts are resolved. But it does make sense. And yeah, in a way, I'm kind of curious what fanfic writers could do to further flesh out these kind of relationships with these subtle hints at the greater amount of depths that the writers have already established in this one episode. It's quite fascinating, really. And then throw in a few side characters that bring in quite a few more laughs than I would have expected. Surely this is a friendship problem, all in unison. This is what happens when we don't rehearse. That's some fun stuff. And then seeing Starlight's father suddenly appear behind Starlight without having any idea where he came from earlier on in the episode, and then later when they're, oh, we're not avoiding our parents, we're just taking a break, and then suddenly he's at the top of the ladder, even though it was clearly established only a few seconds earlier that he was not in that room. You have to wonder if he's got some spells to suddenly appear out of nowhere without anyone noticing. He's actually pretty good at that, don't you think? And even at the crux of a conflict of trying to just deal with your parents who are driving you crazy, and Starlight's reaction of, why couldn't we have been sent to stop a war or something? Of all the responses. Oh, that's great stuff. At any rate, though, this is a pretty strong entry for Season 8. I think it might be probably in the top 2 or 3 of the season thus far. But it's still pretty early on, so we'll see what else has yet to come. In the meantime, though, I would like to hear your thoughts on the parent map. Given previous episodes, like with Rainbow Dash and her parents, how do you think this one handled the delicate subject of overbearing family members? Especially when it comes to, maybe they do have good reasons for why they are trying to drive you crazy in the first place. I don't know. Until next time, though, I am Dr. Wolf, and I look forward to hearing from you.